Okay, next we have commentary by the Township Committee. So previously in past years we've had public commentary first, followed by Township Committee commentary. We've tried to change that up this year so that the Township comments first and then the public can comment on anything, including the Township commentary. So we're going to hand that over to Mark first again.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to recognize that with the vaping ordinance that was proposed, I'm happy to see that we are postponing that vote to facilitate more input and see what the State Assembly does in their in the bill that was just introduced. I think it's an issue that we have a lot of different routes to go in terms of soliciting input from different stakeholders, whether it's surrounding communities, residents of our own community, and parents and people from the school district. So I think it's a good approach to do some more, take some more time into vetting the ordinance before we make a decision on whether or not we're going to pass it. And I'm looking forward to the presentation next month from Chief DiCarlo and some of the health experts, and looking forward to hearing their testimony. I just want to note a few things that happened in the past month that I just wanted to recognize. One of them is a group of residents in the area of Hillside Firehouse have been meeting recently to try to restore and improve one of the parks, Hayward Park, which is right behind Hillside Firehouse on Western Avenue. I've just been really encouraged by the input that they've had and the initiative that they've taken. Some area parents have decided to form a group of their own to meet and see what they can do through in their own time and with their own resources to try to make some improvements to the park. And I commend our Director of Parks and Recreation, Bill Folch, for working with them and seeing what the town can do to help them out. And I'm looking forward to helping them in the spring cleanup day at Hayward Park, and we're going to have it on April 6th. And I just want to note that members of the fire department from Hillside Hose Company were there also providing input, and also from the Ladies Auxiliary at Hillside. So I just want to commend them for other normal residents who have decided to take some initiative on their own to try to improve something that impacts their lives and their children's lives. So I'm happy to be part of that initiative. Second, I just want to note the work of one of our volunteers, Gianna Del Coli, who I mentioned before, in her work in helping Morris Township get grant funding for hazmat training, which was, I believe we passed a resolution tonight accepting that funding. And this is another individual who, on her own time, took the initiative to help our fire department out, which I'm a member of, to get training for hazardous materials responses. And this is a $15,000 grant that the township doesn't have to pay for out of its own pocket. We're receiving this grant, and we're able to provide this necessary funding for our hazmat team on the fire department. And so I just want to commend her for her work. And then lastly, I just want to thank Administrator Quinn and Bill Filch again for their work in seeing through the improvements of Collinsville Playground. I was happy to support the measure tonight to see through that the project stays on schedule and we get some playground equipment installed shortly. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Peter?
Sure. Few things going on. Continuing to reach out to Trenton to try to see if we can increase the penalties for texting while driving. At the moment, I'm not making much progress, but I'm going to be sitting down with Assemblyman Bucco and chat with him and see if we can get some resolution, because the penalties for texting while driving are as moderate as they could be, and they ought to be draconian, because I can go through these statistics as to what's occurred, but it's something that we need to have happen. And on that same note, keep in mind and keep in your prayers Senator Bucco, who has been ill, and hopefully will recover and be much better. Again, to emphasize what Mark said, I'm very, very happy to see the engineering contract for Collinsville Playground moving along. And once again, it's always kudos, not always, but usually kudos to Tim Quinn and Jim Prushanowski, who have gotten all our union and non-union contracts settled for raises right at the 2% level. I mean, I just think that's incredibly important. It's gone on for probably about 8 months now to get this done. Our pools need you to join them. 2 brand new pools. We'd love to have you. I may even put on a bathing suit and come and join you one of these days. That's a threat, by the way, not a promise. Again, I echo what Mark said about the vaping. I think it's an incredibly important issue, and I think that Representative Bucco and his contemporaries are trying to do something which is extremely important and is needed to be done for our community and the whole state of New Jersey. So that's what I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arvanites?
Thank you. Peter, with regard to the texting, I'd be more than happy to join you in any efforts we can have with the contacts that I might have in Trenton along with yours. Maybe we can move it along a little bit quicker to get something solidified with those kind of penalties.
That would be great, sir. Thank you so much.
With regard to the vaping ordinance that was discussed as well, I'm hopeful that the Assembly and the Senate down in Trenton will put in very, very severe penalties for those that would be selling those types of products to children. I think it has to start with there, and then with whatever else we can do as a community and educating parents and children in the risks in using those types of products. I think that's where we should get involved, but hopefully Trenton can get it right. And then I'll reiterate again with regard to the pools. Bill, make it a special day, get the bands out when Peter Mancuso shows up in his bathing suit.
June 22nd, I believe.
Thank you. Kathy?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to congratulate the police officers who were promoted tonight and thank them for their hard work and the awards and the many accomplishments. Much appreciated. I wanted to say also that I'm very happy to see the Collinsville playground moving along. It sounds to me like it should be 60 to 90 days for the work to be completed. So that's good news. I wanted to just say a few words. I was very glad to see Moms Demand Action here tonight for the signing of the proclamation. I was reading the proclamation, and it really stood out to me that the beginning whereas says it's an astonishing fact that more than 30,000 people die each year due to gun violence. That is truly an astonishing fact. And I would add that another astonishing fact to me is that guns are the only consumer product that's not regulated for health and safety. And your coffee pot is more heavily regulated for safety than are guns. While the specific causes and solutions for gun violence are obviously a very heated source of debate, the proclamation that was signed tonight really outlines general principles that pretty much everybody, virtually everyone, agrees with. And I think these principles are a great beginning for dealing with this truly is an epidemic of gun violence that is literally killing more than 30,000 Americans every year. I want to thank Mayor Grisel for signing it, and thank you also to Mr. Mancuso for signing it last year as well. I wanted to comment also, I'm very glad to see there's been a lot of community involvement. We've had a few issues that have come up in the last several weeks that have sparked a lot of interest on the part of residents, sending emails, making phone calls, showing up at meetings. And this is really encouraging. This kind of involvement has been a passion of mine for decades. So I do understand that people tend to show up when they're upset about something. I'm not happy to see people upset, but I am happy to see the kinds of engagement that we've been seeing, here, with people getting involved and expressing their views, to me, that's just really, it's the mark of a healthy democracy and a healthy community, and so I'm really glad to see it. There's 2 upcoming events that I wanted to encourage everyone to mark your calendar for. One is that coming up, I don't know if this has been totally finalized, but I did want to highlight the presentation on the hearings for the planning boards and the Board of Adjustment. Is that okay?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too.
All right. Okay, so Mr. Grayzel will talk about that, but I would encourage people, it's on March 27th, and it's very informative on how the hearing process works on those 2 boards. Also, coming up on March 11th, we will, it's March 11th, is that correct? Right here in this room, Assemblyman Bucco will be hosting an event. The topic is New Jersey Transit. And the New Jersey Department of Transportation Commissioner herself, her name is Diane Gutierrez Scassetti. She will be here to, I guess she'll be a speaker, she'll be answering questions, taking comments, and it's another timely and important event that I encourage everyone to attend. So that's it, thank you.
Very good, thank you. So I'll say a couple words about the vaping too. I've gotten a lot of feedback myself, a lot of emails from various residents with feelings all over the spectrum. And I won't go into what those feelings are, but one thing that I'm very happy with is that the community is engaged. As Kathy said, one of the things that she and I both have been working towards for many, many years is getting the community involved in these kinds of discussions and getting them engaged and coming out to meetings. The initiative that was put forward by the police, which is a very well-intentioned initiative, it's controversial with some people, but it is well-intentioned, has sparked a lot of community discussion amongst parents, amongst the school board, and amongst many other people about what our role is and how we could help solve this problem. Everybody agrees that there is an epidemic, and the question is, how best do we attack that epidemic? So I'm glad that there's a community discussion, and we're all going to start working towards a solution to solve it. I too want to congratulate the police officers again, Heather Gogolich and Chris Tongring, on their well-deserved promotions, and for the 2 police officers that delivered the baby this past Sunday. They were the right guys to be on duty at the right time. So I bet that resident was happy an EMT was patrolling the streets right at that time. As I mentioned before, February is Black History Month, and there is going to be a lecture tomorrow night in Morristown's Town Hall in the Senior Center on the 3rd floor at 7 p.m. And I am told that the lecturer, the speaker, Lawrence Ham, is quite dynamic and worth hearing. So if you haven't participated in a Black History Month event, tomorrow night is a great one to attend, and it's free. And lastly, with regard to the planning board, as we discussed earlier and Kathy just mentioned, there's been a lot of questions in the community about the roles of each board. As many of you know, there's a proposal for the development at Rods at the Madison Hotel, and a lot of people have questioned how the process works and how things move through the different boards and what the roles of those land use boards are and what role they play in determining what development is appropriate for Morris Township. And we put together a session. We believe the date's going to be March 27th. An announcement will come out shortly with more of an explanation about what's going to be discussed. But the attorney for our planning board, his name is Steve Warner, great guy, is going to discuss the differences between the planning board and the zoning board of adjustment. He's going to discuss what things go to which board when an application would go to the planning board versus the board of adjustment. He's going to discuss what the planning board duties are and how applications work through the planning board, as well as how applications work through the zoning board to either an approval or denial, so people understand the steps that go into the process. And then he's going to also discuss appeals, local government ethics, and the open